Yo, what up, you guys? This is your boy the Kryptonian saying here, bringing you another review for One Piece, chapter 77. Now, this chapter right here, man, it really hit me on two levels. Like there were two themes in here, and the first one, I really felt like Oda was trying to tell us that you can do a whole lot with a little, and it's not necessarily what you have but what you do with it. And then the other theme I felt like that it had is something that I really live by, and I think I've touched on it in other videos in the past, and that's that blood doesn't make you family. So I'm just gonna dive right into the chapter, but here's the thing: I am gonna throw in a few personal things because, like I said, this chapter just really hit me. So the chapter opens up. Luffy, he's like, I don't care about our past. And I thought that that was just so beautiful when you just sit back and reflect on the chapter, because the thing about family is your family doesn't care what happened in your past. They don't care what you do now. They don't care what you're going to do 3 months from now. You know, if somebody's accepted you as family, all they care about is who you are, what you've done for them, and the fact that you're okay. They just care about your well-being. And I know one of you guys said in the comment section below that Luffy, while he might be very simple-minded, he is somebody that pays attention to people. And I just see it right there, and I just thought that was real beautiful, man. Like I said, my respect for him, I mean, it's going up, because for him to be able to sit there and say, I don't care whatever happened in her past, she's gonna be my navigator. He's basically saying, look, man, like, this crew's my family. I don't care about whatever the fuck happened in the past. She's with me now. I know who she is. Just forget it. And he walks off. And I thought that that was very good, because while, say, Nami could have done some real messed up stuff in her past, and she might have, because this flashback isn't over, but she could have did some real messed up stuff in her past, but that doesn't change what she's shown you, and that doesn't change the fact that whatever bond you've established, that's what you have. Like, you judge people based on what they've done in the past, but what they're doing right now should way more than whatever they've done in the past. People change. So I really appreciated that. And then to see Zoro kind of follow that lead where he says, we'll listen to your story, and then he goes to sleep. So that right there, I mean, that was just very telling that the top two members of Luffy's crew, Luffy and Zoro, both took that approach. And for Sanji to be lovesick, or really not even lovesick, just to be flirting, I mean, I probably would have did what Sanji said, like, yeah, girl, I'll listen to you. So I get where Sanji's coming from. Sanji's trying to get into them panties. I get where Sanji's coming from. Usopp, I think Usopp's genuinely interested. I think part of it might be because he's looking for material for his stories, but the other thing is he could have died and Nami saved herself, so saved him, so he's a little invested at this point. So Usopp, I get why he wants to hear this. And this is the thing, right? Like, now I'm gonna break off a little bit. I thought it was very, very telling that Nami is stealing books. And the reason why I thought that is when I say you don't have to have a lot in order to be happy. For her, taking the books and just looking at them and learning how to draw maps, and even now she's saying, like, I want to be a navigator. I want to chart all the seas. I want to see the whole world and make a map of the whole world. It is very beautiful, because in one of the Black Clover reviews, one of the things I talked about was how Mary, one of the characters, did not talk like her age. And when you look right here, the way that Nami is talking in this chapter, it's very age appropriate. You know, like it's not saying that, you know, kids can't be philosophical. I'm not saying that's not the case. But what I'm saying is, it's like you have to keep the vocabulary and the mannerisms within a certain range. You know, like it's to make it more believable. So when Nami is still in the book and Ginzo is, you know, getting on to her, and like for her to be sticking the tongue out and for her to be clutching the book in the way that she has, where she says, "I'm sorry, Belle, I had to have this book." And to see her laughing like this, I mean, that's what I mean. Like it's got that childlike innocence, and that's the thing. You have to be very careful when you write children, because when you write children, you have to make them believable, because otherwise you run the risk of somebody saying, "I don't buy into this," or there's a huge disconnect. That's why when you have a lot of older people, when I say older people in their 40s and 50s that try to write young adult stories, they often have to get around children in order to figure out the new lingo kids using, but also just to observe the mannerisms, because it's been so long since you've been in that childlike state. And the beautiful thing about all this is when you look at Belle, you know, she has a design that's somewhat similar to Nami, which fits in the whole thing about family. But the other thing about Belle is she's going without food in order to keep Nami and Noichiko, hold on, Nojiko, in order to keep her and Nojiko well fed. And the reason why I said that just really hit me is I know a mother who doesn't have a lot, and she's gone without food in order to make sure that her daughter can eat. And so when I read that, it personally resonated. But the other thing is there's this one scene where Belle ends up saying, "Hey," right here, she says, "But you couldn't buy it for me, Belle." And Belle tells her, "I could have done, I could, so I have enough, and I have enough in secret, in the secret stash for a book." And if you'll look, like Belle, hold on, there we go. If you'll look, Belle, I mean, she looks very alarmed at the fact that Nami feels like she has to steal books because of their financial situation. And there's another scene in here where after she goes out and she says, like, "This is my whole world, not whole world, this is my dream. I want to be able to chart, you know, the whole world." It really fits into like little kids and their dreams and aspirations, man. And the fact that Nami held on to it just goes into something that I'm very adamant about. You know, if you have a skill, and particularly if you see a child and a child has an obvious skill, like Nami was able to draw a map at that young age and is learning, you keep teaching that kid those skills. If you can't teach them, then you put them around people who have those skills, you nurture it, and that you get the end result of what Nami is now, where she's talented as an adult, but also she's still pursuing her dreams and her passions. You know, like you have to nurture children in this aspect. So I really appreciate what Belle was doing. Now the other thing is, and this is where it kind of comes in on a personal level, right? You know, she's making Nami a lion on her dress, but the other thing about it is that's a hand-me-down from her older sister. And Belle did at least take the time to try and make it a little different, so in a way it's new. But right here, when you look at it, she just decides to go off. She says, "I want new clothes too." And that's when Nojiko tells her, like, "Look, mine aren't new. And which would you rather have, new clothes or food?" And when Nami decides to go off and say, "We're not even real sisters," and the fact that Belle has to knock some sense into her and tell her, "Look, blood doesn't make you family," I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that, because I've said it on numerous occasions. I have friends who are closer to me than some of my own family. You know, like I'll go out on a limb for them because they've gone out on limbs for me when my own family hasn't done that. You know, when I've been in really dark spaces, it's been them that I've been able to confide in, not my family. You know, so when Nojiko is basically getting upset, and then Belle is basically telling Nami, like, look, you little brat, you don't understand. She doesn't say brat, but that's just my word thrown in there. Because Nami did act like a brat, and it's because she's young and doesn't understand. You know, but the other thing is when I saw that scene about the clothes, you know, I personally didn't go through this. I guess I can say I did go through it for a little bit. I was too young to remember, but like with my sister, I remember when my mom first moved from Texas, right, and she moved to Tennessee, where we were at the time. My mom had left a management job and everything down there in Texas, right, and she had moved because my grandmother and grandfather, like, finances, everything was getting pretty torn up. So my mom, when she came back to Tennessee, you know, she left all her networks and everything, came to Tennessee, and there was a very strong good old boy network here. And what I mean by that is this was the early 90s. You know, Tennessee was still a little backwards, you know, so you had a college educated black woman who had been a manager at a bank, and so she had the experience, but nobody would hire her. And she had actually been a bank manager at bigger banks. But the way a lot of the stuff was in Tennessee at the time was, if you were going to get put on, it's because you knew whatever person. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe affirmative action was in place at that time. But not to get on a political tangent, but basically what my mom had to do, my mom had all that debt from taking on my grandfather and my grandmother's debt in order to help them out, right? My mom was making a lot more, and she took on a position as a teller. And when she took on that teller position, tellers don't make a lot. They make a little bit above minimum wage. And minimum wage at the time wasn't shit. I think it was like $5. And my mom had to take care of me and take care of my sister, and she got on welfare, all this other stuff, right? But one of the things, like, that with my sister, I never understood why growing up my sister was so fascinated with buying new clothes. Once she started getting a job, she would just buy clothes like crazy, like closets upon closets upon closets and stuff. Even now she has she has a whole closet filled with shit that has tags on it, stuff that she hadn't even worn, you know, like bought it 2 years ago, didn't even wear it. And I never understood it until I spoke to her a few months ago. And a few months ago she said, well, you know, I always used to get hand-me-down stuff. You know, like, none of my clothes were new, none of my shoes were new. I used to go to class and see all the kids with brand new stuff, and, you know, your mom couldn't afford to give me these. And I just, as soon as I read Nami's stuff, I was like, I understand where she's coming from, because in Nami I can see a little bit of my sister. In the same way that Nami is so adamant about getting gold, now it makes sense. It isn't just because she's trying to free a village, but I think her trying to get all that gold is her way of filling that hole inside of her. So when Nami decides to run away, I thought that that was very key, because she acts just like a child. A child, when they're confronted with something they don't understand, I think children have this, like, a little alarm in their head, where if something shakes their belief or their innocence feels like it's about to leave, they get the fuck out of there. So Nami runs all the way across town to Genzo's place. And Genzo even laughs at her and he says, huh, so you came here all the way to the center, from the outskirts to the center of the village. What a journey. He's making light of her. But here's the thing about it, right? Right there, Nami says, Belle would be happier without us. And you can tell that she truly believes it. And that right there, that's what I mean. Like, that's a child's that's a child's train of thought. You know, how many times have we seen these different stories where children say, I wish I was never born, and it's because of stuff like this, you know? And the crazy thing about it is because Nami left, she didn't see the way Belle was, you know, looking very upset at the fact that Nami decided to leave her. You know, and Belle lost herself for a moment. And as somebody that knows young parents, you know, and Nojiko, you know, got told by Belle that she's only 30. 30's still kind of young to have kids. I think that's the right age. But say if you're not mentally there in the head, I mean, that was 8 years ago. So she was 22 when she found these kids. And so your brain's still developing at that point. And so for her to still have some childish antics inside of her, it makes sense because when Belle found Nami and Nojiko together, right? I thought that that was a very beautiful backstory. I really wish Oda would have gone a little more on this because Nami seems like such an interesting character and we got a whole lot for Sanji. But I can understand why you don't want to put two huge backstories back to back. I can understand that, you know, sometimes less is more. But right here, like Nami and Nojiko are found at sea and both of them have fevers. And if you look, like Belle, she's not covering up herself in order to keep these kids safe. So that maternal instinct is there. And right there, she's crying, saying to save them. And when you look at it, you know, when she sees Nami, Nami is just ignorant to the world because she's only 1 year old and she's laughing. And I'm really wondering what happened in the village because Belle was about to die on the battlefield. And that's when Nojiko comes up to her and she says, hey. And if you'll look here, it looks like something's happened to these houses where they've been torn up. But look in that left corner, it looks like one of the houses has been flipped. So I'm really wondering, did the fishman kind of get her? Like, did the fishman come to that village? And the reason I'm really wondering is you know, Oda kept this scene very brief, and then we get Arlong's arrival. And I'm really thinking that Arlong and Nami, there's more to their past than just obviously Belle dying in some kind of way. But when Arlong comes, we find out that the fishmen have been disbanded, and Genzo automatically says like, hey, you need to go hide in the woods. It's not safe here for you. So what I'm wondering is if Nojiko had already come for her, did Belle come at this point? And I'm really wondering, is Belle going to end up sacrificing herself to keep these kids safe? I know that it was said Nami turned on her, but I don't know. Maybe it's because, you know, I'm reading a fairy tale right now, and in fairy tale, that's something that I believe Urza did. So maybe this is what I get for reading two mangas side by side. But man, my chapter question for you guys is going to be this. What did you think about Belle's decision to go without food? And to go without a lot and to sacrifice so many years of her life, basically the prime years of her life from 22 through 30 to watch over these kids. I can tell you right now, I don't think I could have done it. You know, somebody who's still in that in between from 22 to 30, I don't know if I could have just put my life on pause to make sure that these kids could grow up and be okay. I don't know if I could have done that, but those are just my thoughts, guys. If you liked anything I had to say, as always, comment, rate, subscribe, and share. I greatly appreciate it.